How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and I'm back today with another mission of Stronghold HD. Today we are on mission 21, the final mission of the military campaign, Final Vengeance.
As your father lay bleeding, he begged me to end his life. It gave me pleasure to watch his anguish, and I will have that pleasure again watching yours. Step into my lair and get ready to meet your maker.
I have heard of your many exploits, but have not seen you in action, so indulge me. I shall give you charge of my army, as well as the honor of marshalling the final assault. Sir Longarm and I shall observe.
Put an end to the wolf using the combined forces of Sir Longarm and the king. You have vanquished the majority of his main army, but the wolf still has many men left, and his stronghold is rumored to be impenetrable. He has discovered the secret of boiling oil, so do not approach too quickly. Instead, make use of the new trebuchet to weaken him from afar.
Okay, let's get started. Very hard difficulty. So here we are at the start of this mission. You gotta get the spearmen out of the range of that ballista, otherwise I'm going to lose a few of them. And then we're going to position the swordsmen right here in front of the catapult, as well as move the archers and the crossbowmen on either side. This is going to preemptively defend against the wolf's sally forth attacks that are going to be coming out quite shortly. Right there you can see the beginning of the attacks. Make sure the swordsmen are set to defensive, of course. And yeah, it works pretty good. Took care of those macemen. Now took care of the knights just fine. So as you can see, there are quite a few sally forth units that will come out at you from the wolf. And I want to be noted that I'm doing this commentary in post, and that's mostly because this mission was a bit tricky for me. I actually had to reload several times due to factors such as the inability for me to predict the trebuchet outcome. For example, if you have a trebuchet, you tell it to target a tower, it's not always going to hit it as many times one time as it does the next time. Okay, so what I did here is I grabbed the siege ram, battering ram, and I took the engineers out of it. Now, since I'm playing on very hard difficulty, I only get one of the 4 engineers to come out of the battering ram. And then I'm also going to use the portable shield here to see exactly how close to the castle I can get without being attacked before I set up my trebuchets, because once you build a trebuchet, it's permanent. You're not going to be able to take it back down. So, you know, ideally, you want to set it up right the first time. Otherwise, you're going to have to reload the game again, and that's never optimal. So we got the 2 trebuchets going here, and make sure to target the gatehouse in the middle, and that's because if it does miss, it will hit either of the 2 towers on both sides of the gatehouse, so you're more likely to actually do damage with every hit. It should be noted that when I was doing this the first time, it seemed to not want to hit the gatehouse. It would always fall short. They would fall into the moat, so I had to quit it, retarget them all over again. It was quite frustrating at the time that I did this, because like every 2 stones would fall into the moat, even though I told it to target the gatehouse. But eventually got it done. You know, this is just the kind of nonsense that goes on, the kind of buggy nonsense that goes on. Like, I also had it happen to me during recording this that when I told my engineers to exit the trebuchet, they actually just disappeared off the map. And I don't know exactly what caused that. Did they stand on top of a killing pit when they exited? I have no idea. But there we go. The gatehouse is down. I exited the trebuchets, or took the engineers out of the trebuchet right there to make sure it would stop firing. I wouldn't waste stone firing at the gatehouse again. And that's the reason I'm doing that. Like, clicking stop just doesn't seem to be fast enough for me, because it's ready, like they've already wound up and they'll start firing again anyway. But there we go. Gatehouse and both of those engine towers down. And next, what we're going to do is take these 2 knights, and we're going to go up here on top of this small bluff, and we're going to use the knights to trigger the archers in that tower to actually light that pitch on fire, and that pitch as well. Knights are exceptionally well at doing this, or good at doing this, and you only need a couple of them. They're very, very fast, and they have pretty decent armor against archers and even crossbowmen to a little bit. Now we're going to get the engineers out of the trebuchets again, and I'm going to build a few more shields here. So that way we can use them to help protect my crossbowmen, as I'm going to be using my crossbowmen next to help clear some archers out of that tower before we advance again with my trebuchets and continue to take down the wolf's defenses. So yeah, I would recommend in general using the crossbowmen because they deal a lot more damage. They're a lot less likely to die from a careless arrow because of their increased armor, and they're just generally hardier even though they have a slightly shorter range. So that's the reason mainly why I use them over an archer. But as you can see, took the archers out of that tower right there, and then we're also shooting at a couple of the swordsmen that are the swordsman that was actually in one of the engine towers that I took down with the trebuchets. But now we're going to have to bring these 3 shields back and get the engineers out of them because we need the engineers to man another trebuchet. We need another 2 trebuchets, and we just wouldn't have enough engineers otherwise. But of course, we could keep reusing the 3 of them, but it takes so much longer. You know, if you have all 6 of them versus having 3 of them. So what we're going to do with this shield is attempt to see how close we can go to the castle again before triggering that one, or aggroing that one ballista. There is still a ballista in one of the towers in the mid castle. You'll see it shortly. And that was the idea behind the shield. It's like, in case it gets hit, it's only a 5 gold investment. You can easily disband it and set your engineer to build another one. So we got the 2 trebuchets going here, and we're going to target that tower right there. It's behind the smaller tower, and most of the time the smaller tower goes down before it does, but in this case I was actually lucky. Now that, it should be noted that that was the location right there that I had difficulty with getting my engineers out of the trebuchet a couple of times because I wanted the engineers to exit it, and once I did that, 3 of them just disappeared. The other 3 were fine, but 3 of them just disappeared right off the map, and it was like I reloaded it a couple of times, and it really didn't make much difference. It just kept bugging out like this, and that was actually quite frustrating at the time because you have to keep reloading, right? It breaks the continuity of the recording. So as you can see, none of the towers are down yet. They're now, that one finally goes down. So I'm going to target the defensive tower right to the east of it. And there was enough stone here to actually finish it off. So there it is down now. And I believe we're out of stone. So those trebuchets are pretty much done for as well. And luckily, when I exited the siege equipment with the engineers this time, they didn't actually disappear. That was one of the reasons why I disbanded that first trebuchet, was because I was worried that maybe they were disappearing because they actually got stuck on the other empty trebuchet or something. There's really no way of telling. Now I'm re-manning those shields that I had previously built. We're going to be using them to help protect the crossbowmen once again. When we move over here to, I suppose it would be the north a bit, and then we want to clear out some of the archers in this tower. There are currently 2 archers up there, which should be taken care of, but that 3rd one that's on the wall behind it is not going to be accessible. So we're just going to have to ignore that one for now. And that one actually proved to be a bit of a thorn in my side overall because I tried multiple ways of getting to it, but it seemed like whenever I approached it, it either was not accessible, like it was hidden away and I couldn't actually hit it with my units while it was shooting at me, or I killed it and then a ton of other archers would keep resupplying to that one exact spot. It was like the AI really wanted an archer there. Okay, we've got a 5th trebuchet up and going here, and this one's going to target the mangonel tower at the far west side of this entry, this little... well, it's like an entrance to the castle. I really don't know what to call that. You'll see the archer is shooting at the trebuchet itself, and it's going to have enough health to get this done, but I thought it would be interesting to point that out, that I am taking damage for it, and I know that I am. because I tried alternatives and this was the best. I just couldn't get rid of that archer. It's interesting that this is the second time that when I was firing at a tower, the stones from the trebuchet actually killed the engine that was on top of that tower before it killed the tower itself. That is relatively rare that will actually happen, and all things considered, it meant that I actually could have just ignored it, like told it to stop, because that was pretty much the whole point of targeting that tower to begin with, was to get the siege engine out of it. But then we're done with that siege, or that trebuchet for now. And now we actually have to take these engineers, move them a bit to the south here. And we're going to use them to build another trebuchet, and on top of a bluff this time. Now this can take a bit of practice because there is no range indicator on the trebuchet, so you have to place a tent down, see if it is within range of that large round tower up there on top of the hill, or on top of that bluff, that cliff. If it is, then you're good to go and you can have it target it. If it's not, then you have to reload and try again. Obviously, I think that's a flaw with placement of siege units in this game. When it's permanent like that, it would be nice if it showed its range when you're placing it down. Like when you're hovering over the map with your cursor and you have the tent selected to build the trebuchet, it should have indicated how far it would be able to fire if you placed it down in that location. It's just small things like that that make the game so much more accurate. Fortunately, I got it right the very first time this playthrough, but the very first time that I played through this, when I wasn't recording it, I had to place it down a couple of times before I actually found the proper range, so it seemed to be a skill that was acquired with practice. So the tower is almost down, and there we go, that one's down. And that's pretty much it for the trebuchets, believe it or not. So just bringing the engineers back over here to my main force. We're going to get the crossbowmen on the move here. Now this was actually part of a failed attempt to kill off that one archer on that far northern wall. And I decided to build more shields here with those additional engineers. Yeah, so what I decided to do over here, what you see going on here, is actually ultimately not necessary because it ended up failing, but it turns out I didn't cut it out while editing the video. I had to edit the video together, and it was actually an interesting edit job because I applied a whole bunch of audio transitions to ease the abruptness of it changing the music score every time I reloaded. Like every time you reload a game, the game itself reloads the audio, so you're going to get a different audio track. And I decided that I would use an audio transition, like a fade between, to sort of ease how jarring that is. And as it turns out, it actually broke Premiere, and so I was exporting a file that was incomplete. It wouldn't play all the way through. So it was just obnoxious, but that's just one of, like right there you can hear loading. Just one of the small things that goes on, one of the small difficulties you have to overcome sometimes when making videos. It's just like it's completely unplanned, unexpected, and you don't get a whole lot of warning of what's going on with it. Like there was no feedback on why exactly my file was being exported empty. It was just, hey, we can't play this. Yeah, yay for me. I can't figure it out. I couldn't even import it back into Premiere. Premiere would just crash. Okay, well, so we remanned this trebuchet in the end because I said, yeah, we got to take care of these ranged units, these archers and these crossbowmen that are sitting here on the ground, because guess what? Whenever I remove that archer that's currently firing on my trebuchet itself, when I'm doing this, just more archers would come along and just take out that position on the wall. So I had to stay there for protracted periods of time, and it was difficult to find a location where I could stay within range of that archer and yet out of range of other towers on the castle that had a lot of more ranged units. So I was taking a lot of damage unnecessarily while waiting for every single one of these ranged units, these archers, they're just scattered about the courtyard, to go ahead and run up the stairs to take their position on that wall. And they do it one at a time. It wasn't like they do it like all at once. Like when they realized that that one archer was gone, a whole bunch of archers rushed up to that position on the wall. No, you got to kill them one at a time, and then they'll go ahead and attempt to refortify that position. We're almost out of cows here, and cows in general I don't care much for because they're so inaccurate, and that stupid apothecary keeps dispelling the disease, but he never seems to do it fast enough to actually have any effect on the amount of damage I can do. So I think I had a couple cows left, but I had to exit the trebuchet because it was just getting a little bit too risky. It was like really low on health, and I was worried that it would die, and I didn't have a shield with me at the time, so I just got rid of it because it's more important to have these additional shields, portable shields manned and usable than it is to actually launch another cow into the courtyard. They'd probably miss and wouldn't do anything anyway. So that's rather cynical way of looking at it, but it's ultimately the approach that I had. So yeah, what is going on here? I tried again to actually get rid of that archer. It didn't work, so now I'm taking the knight, moving down here. I had to reload this one a couple times too, because 2 times out of 3 the knight actually triggered or tripped a killing pit, which meant that it was pretty much reduced to no health. I mean, a killing pit can't kill a knight outright, but it can reduce its health to just about dead. So same thing going on here with the macemen. Like, there are a lot of killing pits scattered around here, and I'm probably going to lose a maceman or 2 to a killing pit. Yep, right there. There we go. 1 got killed to a killing pit. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to attempt to dig the moat up. Obviously, I'm taking some fire, especially from that archer on the wall that I just couldn't get rid of without incurring ridiculously disproportionate losses to my side. Some of that could be, you know, down to my lack of micro ability. I'm not a very good microer when it comes to actual military real-time tactics kind of stuff. But of course, these macemen are not cooperating when it comes to digging the moat. They'll run to the area, tell them to dig the moat on, and say, "Oh, can't dig there," and then they'll try to dig somewhere else. They'll run around to the other side of the castle. Now, the siege engineer actually dumped the oil on my units, but apparently it was too close to the moat or something, and the fire just disappeared. So, chalk it up to another good old bug in Stronghold HD. I ended up just using these 2 macemen here primarily to finish digging this little path. I know in the past, it's been well documented that units can actually disappear into the moat while filling it in. That didn't happen to me here, but I did lose a couple of macemen to the archer fire. Like, I'm taking a lot of fire there, but I finally made it through. And another 2 of them died, 1 to an archer and the other one to a killing pit on the way out of there. So now we actually have access to that inner courtyard. I guess that's what I would call it. And now what we need to do is actually get rid of the little wolf traps. What do you call those? Wolf pens that are actually on the other side of the wall there. You can't see them because they're the same color and appearance as regular walls, but that's what that is, and that's why I'm sending 1 knight in, because 1 knight will not actually activate them. 2 of them will, so I just use 1 knight to do that, and then the archers and the crossbowmen didn't have enough time to actually shoot at my knight to kill it. So one of the things you can do here is use spearmen to actually try to empty this area, but I've found that knights are much more effective. You can use 2 knights, of course, and try to trip all of the pitch that's laying around here. That's what I did, and as you can see, much more effective than using units like spearmen, even though spearmen are expendable, and you have to keep in mind that for scenarios where the score matters, this is actually going to increase your score a fair bit, because the score counts how many units you lost and not the quality of a unit lost. So if you have to lose a unit when operating under such conditions, it's more beneficial to actually lose the knight than it would be to lose, say, 20 spearmen. Yeah, so here you can see the end of the failure of my ability to actually remove that archer in a way that was satisfactory to me. So I'm just repositioning the crossbowmen here and the shields with them. And we're going to go ahead and get them right here behind this wall where I dug up the moat. Now, I don't think... Okay, 1 of my crossbowmen actually died to a killing pit, but by and large, my crossbowmen were relatively safe on the trip across, which was actually quite pleasant. Did not really expect that to happen, because I'm experienced in this matter, and it seems like the AI fans your troops out just perfect so they can take the maximum amount of damage from earthen defenses that are placed against you. Here we're going to take the shields, the portable shields, get them onto the stairs there, and then bring the crossbowmen up right behind. Hopefully this will help protect them on the journey into that tower right there. So So we're going to get all of them now into the tower, the portable shields as well as the crossbowmen, and that's going to give them an increased boost to armor. And what we want to do here is with the crossbowmen, target the archers first, because while the crossbowmen are particularly effective against armored units, they're not so really that powerful against portable shields. Like, they do about the same amount of damage, so it's much more important to get rid of the units that fire faster, which would be the archers, than the units that actually fire slower but have more damage, which is the crossbowmen. So that's the reason why I target the archers first in this scenario and not the crossbowmen, because that was something I didn't really realize at first that I wanted to do, is that I would actually get better results targeting archers before crossbowmen. Because I have this thing in my mind where crossbowmen are the most powerful, and therefore that they should be targeted first. They should be taken out first because they pose the greatest threat. Not true when you're dealing with portable shields. So now what we want to do is leave the portable shields behind, and this is important. We're going to move the crossbowman all the way up to this tower towards, I guess it's a little bit westwards, as west as we can go. The reason for this is we need to clear out the siege equipment on top of that next gatehouse. And we can't do it if we bring along the portable shields, because the portable shields will actually activate both, well, it will activate the mangonel. The ballista is already firing at me, but since I'm on top of a tower, it can't actually hit me. It's a bit like you're a lord being on top of a keep. Even if you place a tower ballista right next to it, the tower ballista can't hit it because it's on top of that keep. So that's why I'm immune to the ballista's attacks right now, as long as I keep my crossbowman on top of that keep. And there were only a couple of archers and a couple of I think it's like one crossbowman and 2 archers that could actually fire on me from while I was in this tower, which meant I was relatively secure. There's really no reason to go ahead and bring the portable shields, because you're only going to take fire from them for a limited amount of time. And so that's the reason I did what I did there. And the shields are left back in the other tower, but once I have the mangonel removed and the ballista, all that stuff, I'm going to be moving them up. But it's just important to remember that siege equipment can easily like aggro a mangonel versus just a whole bunch of regular troops. What I'm doing here with the spearmen, I was trying to minesweep for any additional killing bits so I didn't lose units that are of actual use to me to them. So while knights are probably the best at minesweeping for like boiling oil or pitch ditches, those spearmen are much better at minesweeping for the random killing pit that is placed around here. Because you don't want to take your tower and bring it along and all of a sudden it trips over a killing pit and loses half of its health. So now the archers are being moved up a little bit closer. And we're finally getting rid of the last units that are in these great towers. Like there's an engineer with boiling oil, as well as I think a pikeman. And this is the next area where I goofed up a little bit. Yeah, so we're targeting that last pikeman that's on top of the great tower. I had this group of shields, and then I took the the siege tower. I went ahead and I'm going to be putting it on top of the wall, or I'm going to be putting it next to the gatehouse that's up there, next to those towers to the west that I need to remove. And I started building these additional shields. There was no point in removing the engineers from the catapult, in case you're wondering why I didn't do that. And that's because on the hardest difficulty, it will remove, there's essentially no engineers in it, because I'm playing this on hard difficulty. So it's going to end up with me just getting nothing out of the catapult, except now the catapult's unusable. So there we go. Take the siege tower, target that gatehouse, and then we also need, I went ahead and got this knight over here to remove the quarry. That way my archers can actually not focus on all the peasants that continue to come out of the castle to man it, because like I shot all of them dead, and then the ox keeps respawning, and my archers have to take time to all target it and shoot at it, and I didn't want that going on. So here we're finally moving the siege tower into position. As you can see, we're just going to be propping it right up there against the gatehouse, and then we get 2 engineers from it when it actually is in place, because once you put a siege tower in place, it can't be moved again. And the idea here with these 2 engineers was to actually build another 2 portable shields, but you'll see, apparently my knight got too close in combination with those 2 shields and actually triggered those wolf the wolf dens, the wolf lairs, the wolf pens. I forget exactly what they call them. And it ended up killing 2 of my portable shields. So it was pretty much for naught that I went ahead and actually built those additional 2 shields. So that was something that I regretted in this playthrough. I didn't actually reload for that because I hadn't loaded soon enough. But then I went ahead and just got the last knight to destroy the wolf den. And that was something I should have done in the beginning, because you can easily do it if you just have 1 knight available. Go ahead and send that over, and it won't allow the wolves to spawn. It's like the den doesn't consider it enough to actually automatically spawn the wolves. So you can kill it without releasing any of the war dogs. I mean, they call them war dogs, but they're actually wolves. So with all this done, we actually have access now to that great tower there. And we're going to be moving the portable shields up into it, along with a whole bunch of archers and crossbowmen. And this is going to give us the protection we need against the units in the Wolf's Keep. So we're going to be firing on them. I have found that it's actually more accurate to use this tower to the south, the southmost part of the defensive castle, rather than using the one that actually seems closer to the keep. It's like I've had better results using it. And that's the reason that I went down there, because you'd think it would be a greater distance. It looks like a greater distance, and I think it is, but I just couldn't hit anything from that other tower that's right next to it, but to the north more. And eventually you get all of the units out of the Wolf's Keep. Well, not all the units, all the ranged units out of the Wolf's Keep. Then we can start moving up the rest of our units, but we do need to get rid of these archers in that very distant perimeter tower. Those archers have a brazier next to them, which means that they, if left alone, will actually light the whole area on fire, because there is pitch placed all over the ground here in front of the Wolf's Keep. But now that we've got all of those archers out of the way, we can actually bring the swordsman up for the final assault. You, of course, could eventually kill the wolf simply by firing on him from the tower, like I'm doing with my crossbowmen and archers, but ultimately, if you actually are interested in saving some time here, there is no reason why you can't just go ahead and send your swordsmen in as well, as the only real defenses placed on the ground here are the pitch ditches, and not actually any killing pits or anything like that. So as long as you have the archers removed, you're good to go. Advance in the keep and take care of the wolf himself, just like that. And it is over. We have victory.
You plunge your sword up to the hilt into the wolf's chest, then twist the blade. As he looks down at his open wound in astonishment, you push him over the parapet.
So we've claimed the last county for ourselves.
With your father's death avenged and the king back on his rightful throne, you can finally rest. Throughout the entire kingdom, there was much rejoicing, and everyone lived quite happily ever after. Well, maybe not everyone.
So that pretty much completes the military campaign for Stronghold HD on Very Hard. It was a challenge towards the end, as I pointed out. This was probably the most edited episode I had to do of it so far to actually get it done. But overall, this gave me some additional time to further elaborate on the strategy that I used, so I don't think it was entirely a waste of anybody's time. If you're wondering about what to look forward to from here going forward, I also plan to complete the economic missions for Stronghold HD next before actually shelving the game, so to speak, because I would consider it beat. There is the military campaign, obviously, which I completed, and then there was also a 5-mission economic campaign that is not linear in story, really. It's just like 5 standalone missions that you can unlock one by one. You know, you play the first one to unlock the second, but there was actually no linear story that binds them. But that would sort of make me feel like I'd actually completed the game, and then I could move on to perhaps another Stronghold title. Like there was Stronghold 2 going to be released sometime in the first quarter of 2017. and that's going to be the HD remaster of it, similar to the way Stronghold Legends was remastered in HD. So I would like to take a look at that probably when it is released, and hopefully we will have completed Stronghold HD itself by that time, and then I can move Stronghold 2 HD or Steam Edition, whatever you want to call it, into that slot. So that's the plan thus far. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.